All right, welcome back. It is time for our State House Insiders. Antoine Seawright, our Democratic strategist, Dave Wilson, our Republican strategist. Guys, it's the last day of the regular session, but lawmakers aren't quite through. They'll be coming back sometime this summer, correct?
They will be coming back this summer because they still have to deal with the budget. They've got budget issues. We have new monies that are coming into the state, and that's going to have to be allocated, put into the state budget. They're going to also have to deal with the governor's vetoes when those come back. So it's not going to be the last time they'll be in Columbia this year, but it will be the last day of the legislative session today.
I think there will be an ongoing effort for lawmakers returning to Columbia to do what is supposed to be the people's business. Notice I did say supposed to be, because I don't think the people's business was done in this legislative session. You will have sessions to deal with vetoes. You will have to deal with the state budget. And then in the fall, there will be redistricting for the purposes of redrawing what the lines would look like for elections going forward. So by far, the year is not over, although the legislative session, calendar session, is over.
Guys, what didn't happen this legislative session that you thought would happen? Antoine?
Well, I can tell you what did not happen, the things that most of the people of South Carolina want, and that's efforts to improve their overall quality of life. What the Republican-dominated General Assembly focus on are issues that really flame up national flares, from guns that even gun legislation that even law enforcement was against, to an abortion bill, to things that really do not, I would say, cut the mustard in terms of what people will want. We did not prioritize our teachers, in my opinion, state workers that were not prioritized, not to mention really getting our arms around this pandemic in a real way. Instead, we just decided to punt on issues that really, really should be priority in this state. And I'm not surprised, because it's not the first time.
I'll disagree with Antoine on this one. I really do think there were a lot of things that were dealt with. We did give increases. Is it as much as everybody wants? No. But we also are having to take a look at the fact of where are our budget numbers actually? What do they look like? And be able to have that. The Board of Economic Advisors is not going to come out with that final number until the middle of this month, because we've got to get through the tax season first. When you get on the other side of that, we have dealt with COVID-related issues. Vaccines are getting out there. There is a disagreement right now about whether or not you should be wearing a mask in a school, where you should be wearing a mask. And the governor has taken steps right now to basically say, we're working past pandemic. We're going to be post-pandemic in our approach to things now. And I think that is beginning to resonate with certain members of our state who are sitting there going, it's time for us to get somewhat back to normal.
Yeah. Dave, if you travel outside of the political bubble, step outside the zone for a minute, take a trip down to Wagner, Swansea, Woodford, North, go over to Dillon and Barnwell, Bamberg, and you ask those residents and those folks who've been suffering for a long time, you ask them, do they care about abortion issues and gun issues and some of the things that this Republican General Assembly dealt with? I guarantee the answer is no. Why? Because forget about trying to make ends meet. They're putting two ends together, hoping to meet. They want to feed their families. They want to make sure that they have lights on when they come home. They want to go to a job that deserves wages that can make them have a better quality of life than previous generations. Those things were not dealt with in this legislative session.
What are we supposed to do in that particular case, Antoine? Give everybody a free lunch that goes along with it? Somebody's got to pay for those sorts of things. The reality is we're working right now. The governor made moves this past week to turn around and say, if you're sitting there on unemployment right now and you're not working and you're capable of working, you're no longer going to get unemployment insurance. That's an important step to get people back to work. You can't drive down the road in Lexington, Greenville. You can't go down the road in Dillon without seeing help wanted signs at restaurants and other locations across the state. We've got to get people out of the lull of the pandemic. I'm going to have a check coming in from unemployment and actually get back to work. We've got businesses in South Carolina that are begging for supplies and being able to heat the supply chain right now. But we can't do that because we haven't had people doing the work that needs to be done.
Dave, respectfully, before the pandemic, there were jobs available in South Carolina that we could not fill. Why? Because our education system is not where it's supposed to be. Why? Because we need training for workers to fit some of those jobs. Why? Because guess what? People who return and go to some of those jobs, there's not enough to feed their family. That's why you see single moms and families of 2 and 4 and 6 and 8. Sometimes the mother and the father are working 2 jobs just to try to make ends meet. So what I'm telling you is we should have prioritized things that will really work on the quality of life for everyday South Carolinians, not just checking a political box because it's a red meat issue among Republican voters.
I think we have to also make a distinction, JR. We've got to make a distinction. And that's part of what we did with a Republican agenda to say, in South Carolina, these are the things that matter to us and the things that are priorities that differentiate us from other states like New York, California, Georgia, and other states, because we're going to be doing things the way that South Carolina prioritizes.
I want to get a couple of things in real quick. The CDC, you mentioned the mask a moment ago. The CDC late today saying vaccinated individuals don't have to wear masks indoors anymore. Also, you're talking about the governor and the unemployment benefits. Those expire in June. The governor's saying earlier this week he's going to give the unemployed until sometime in June to try and get a job so before these unemployment benefits expire. One other thing with the governor today I want to touch on real quick before we run out of time. The state NAACP asking the governor not to sign the firing squad bill. They're saying that that is barbaric and that South Carolina is moving backwards. Gentlemen, let me get your reaction to that. Antoine?
Well, again, when I talk about priorities in this session, if you tell me how the firing squad is going to improve somebody's overall quality of life, then I will have a discussion with you all day, every day. Dave proved my point when he said the Republican agenda of this session was carried out: firing squad, abortion, and guns. You tell me how that makes the overall quality of life for somebody in South Carolina better, Dave, and I'll take you to Burger King and get you a number 2 with no onions.
You better start ordering it real quick, because we actually qualified the fact that life matters in this state. We're going to protect ourselves, even though sometimes there can't be people who are there to protect us. We're doing those things that need to be done, Antoine, to make sure that people are responsible for themselves and have the resources that they need, that they're guaranteed by the Constitution to be able to have.
The request from the state NAACP, Antoine, is it going to fall on deaf ears at the governor's mansion or what?
What request? I think that's what McMaster is probably saying to himself. Of course, he's going to ignore it. Of course, I would not be surprised if this is signed into law. And it's unfortunate because, again, we should be prioritizing more important issues in the state. Instead, the Republican-controlled General Assembly wants to check a red meat box.
That's not a red meat box when we talk about law enforcement and the fact that we've had 34
you care about law enforcement?
Wait, we have 34 families in South Carolina who have had a loved one killed, murdered. The only way you get on death row is if you are murdering someone. And when that happens and they were qualified and they were charged with and received the death penalty, that is a consequence of that choice. And in South Carolina right now, you can either have the electric chair or firing squad, because the lethal injection, the drugs are not available because of that.
Dave, when did law enforcement matter? Because law enforcement, I know for certain, including the Richland County Sheriff, has come out and said we do not need the gun legislation that passed. I know law enforcement and others, including the business community, wants to pass a hate crime bill. I think something that does matter in the state. And so you can't cherry pick what's important and what's not important and then insert law enforcement or these constituency groups, because if you want to prioritize their priorities, then some of the stuff that was done by Republicans this session would have not been done, my friend. I love you.
We're gonna have to leave the conversation at that. Antoine Seawright, Dave Wilson, guys, thank you so very much. We'll be talking again in the weeks ahead. A quick